Hello and welcome back to The Hatch. I'm Rosie Murphy.
And I'm Sammy Roth, and this is the podcast where we talk about Lost.
If you are joining us in The Hatch for the first time, a quick note about what our show is. We are rewatching Lost episode by episode, discussing what we see and interviewing cast and crew.
And we've got some really fun interviews coming up this year. We've talked with Henry Ian Cusick, who played Desmond, Michael Emerson, who played Ben, Sonia Walger, who played Penny.
We've also talked with the Emmy Award-winning editor of the show, with the man who designed The Hatch, even with some scholars who have produced academic work on Lost. We're going to have a lot of fun this year, and we're excited to have you come along.
Let's get started with Man of Science, Man of Faith. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42.
Execute. All right. If you are a returning listener to The Hatch, you know that we start every episode with hot takes, gut reactions, strong feelings about the episode. Sammy, Man of Science, Man of Faith, go.
Okay. First hot take of the year. I can do this. I think one of my goals this year is to be more positive about Jack.
We got there in the finale of season 1.
You're right, and that's a good point, and I would like to continue that. I was trying to be more positive about him this episode, and I really liked the scene in the ER where I just thought where the two patients come in and he has this crazy moment.
He basically has to choose which one to save.
Yeah, he has both of their lives in his hands, and he has 2 seconds to figure it out. And he's so cool and so collected and, just gets it done. And he's, draining the blood out of Sarah's punctured lung while they're, screaming about the other guy, doctor, we're losing him. And it's just... it was like nothing. It was great. I appreciated Jack a lot in that moment. However, Jack had some not great moments this episode as well that made it difficult for me to fulfill my pledge of being more positive about Jack. Because right after the scene in the ER is the scene where Hurley spills his guts about winning the lottery and all the bad things that happened.
And he says, and all Jack says was, "You were in a psych ward?"
Yeah, what the fuck, Jack?
Yeah. And Hurley reads it immediately and says, "I'm not crazy, man." And of course, we, the viewer, know all of these things are true. He did actually win the lottery, etc.
And we also know that is what Jack is saying to him, which sucks. So,
yeah.
I'm trying to like you, Jack, but it's hard. What's your hot take, Rosie?
Oh, gosh. The scene where Shannon runs into the forest chasing Vincent and then sees Walt standing there dripping and making weird sounds that sound like the others whispering is, very scary.
Agreed.
Freaky.
Agreed.
Deeply freaky. And this is where all the Walt stuff starts to get weird. But B, it reminded me so much of the scene that we'll get in 7 or 8 episodes when Shannon is killed. The setting is very similar. I know it's raining in that episode and it's not in this one. Saeed is chasing her. She's shouting. She doesn't know where things are. I don't know if that's intention. I don't know if this is meant to be foreshadowing, but watching it and knowing that that is sort of the fate she's going to meet in the not too distant future, they felt very, very similar to me.
Yeah, you're totally right. I wonder when they wrote that scene if they knew they were going to, replicate it a little ways down the road with her death. It's right.
Yeah. Or if it was intentional replication, or if it was just Shannon happens to be running into the woods again. But who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Should we talk about the meat of the episode, the Jack versus Locke crisis conundrum?
Oh, goodness gracious. Always. That's what we talk about every episode.
I think one thing that really struck me, and it took me until the third time I was watching this episode, because I've watched it a bunch recently because we've been interviewing people about it, but really until the third viewing, I didn't realize, when Jack pulls out his gun in the hatch, when Locke is there at the end with Desmond, I didn't realize Jack actually pulls his gun on Locke before he knows anything about Desmond, or Desmond being there.
Oh, yeah. Locke steps out from behind the wall and says,
"I wouldn't do that. Where's Kate?"
And Jack just whips out his gun.
Yeah.
And says, "Where's Kate?" Which is always the question our friend Jack is asking.
It is. And I guess that means we should also acknowledge the fact that Jack gives this wonderful inspirational speech about how they're not going to go to the hatch and he's going to stay overnight and protect everyone. And then the moment he feels like he has to protect Kate, that whole thing goes out the window.
It's Charlie. He says, what happened
right.
to waiting until morning and watching the sunrise? And Jack just says, I changed my mind. And it's like, oh, goodness gracious.
Yeah.
And what I do appreciate about this, and this was going to be my hindsight item, but we can just go there now, is Kate, plays Jack like a fiddle. Jack gives this whole speech on the beach about the hatch is not going to work out. We're all going to stay here together. And then Kate compliments him on the speech and, he's doing such a great job, but I'm going with John. And Jack freaks out. I understand that this is seemingly pretty dangerous, but she makes a good point when she says, what if he breaks his ankle? And Jack, doesn't seem to care too much about that. But
Locke's ankles are not Jack's chief concern at this point.
Yeah. Just the amount of emotion that Jack has tied up in Kate, especially in the last couple of days on the island, right? In island time. He's in the season finale from season 1. He does the thing where he doesn't allow her to carry the dynamite.
Why did you remind me about that?
I know. We've discussed this. He's really going to some great lengths to protect Kate, and I wonder if the flashbacks with his desperate efforts to save Sarah and really the kind of miraculous healing, it's interesting to see that in contrast or in complement to his relationship with Kate. It's almost as if he's applying the same logic. He wants desperately to save Kate, but Kate does not need saving.
I kind of think that for Jack, saving people that he cares about is the only way he knows how to relate to them.
Yeah.
It seems like, and I think you're right to make that comparison, it just seems like he doesn't understand another way to show someone that he cares about them or to, interact with them normally other than I am the doctor, I will save you.
Yeah.
So right, but to get back to Locke, he, it's amazing to me that Jack is so close to just shooting Locke here, apparently.
Yeah.
And it made me think so much of later in the show where, as Locke famously says, Jack puts a gun to Locke's head and pulls the trigger, which feels like a watershed moment later on. But I didn't realize quite how close they were to that here until I watched this a couple times.
Right, and I understand that Jack is mad at Locke in this moment, but this is an overreaction.
Right, does he think that Locke has done something to Kate? Does he think that Locke induced her down there? I don't
know, because that seems crazy to me, but that also seems like the only plausible explanation.
It does.
Yeah.
No.
Well, and the setting of this whole conflict, if you can even call it a conflict, Jack pulls a gun, conflict, in the hatch, which is to become the center of so much conflict between... It is. And the center of sort of the central question of science and faith between Locke and Jack. It's so good. And they undergo this basically role reversal over the course of season 2. Initially, it's Locke who's going to push the button, and then it's Locke who kind of loses his faith and decides he doesn't want to push the button anymore. Well, and then Echo comes.
Right, and Echo kind of then plays the role of the Destiny Man there.
The button pusher.
But no, I think you're right. This season, and I think they set this up, obviously, in the finale of season 1 with the actual Man of Science, Man of Faith conversation.
Yeah.
But I think this season of the show, even more than any of the others, is about that central debate between Jack and Locke. Yeah. But yeah, I love the line at the end of the episode when Jack is, holding Locke at gunpoint, and then Desmond shows up, and Jack says, "Is this what you were talking about, Locke? Is this your destiny?" And, yes, actually, I think probably
kind
yes.
Yeah.
I'll be interested to see how we feel about that by the end of the year, but, they don't push the button at the end and bad shit happens.
Right. Yeah, interestingly, this is before the show truly gets metaphysical, right? The button is real, and it's actually doing something. It's bizarre, but it is actually doing something. It's not just a psychological experiment, right? Which is a reasonable assumption, and a reasonable thing for Locke and Desmond and Jack and for everybody to think.
Yeah, and and I know we spent a lot of time last year talking about how Locke just seemed like a crazy person in retrospect. But in season 1, but then you get here, and I don't know, I could already sort of feel myself starting to remember what it was that was so compelling and, sort of sane about Locke. Because he has this line in there when he's talking to Kate, and he says, if Jack thinks I've lost it, I can't really blame him. The line is, and then 5 hours ago, I was pulled into a hole by what appeared to be a column of black smoke.
Yeah.
Did you see it, Kate? Then I guess we're both crazy.
Yeah.
But he's right. He was pulled into a hole by a column of black smoke.
Right.
What is the rational explanation for this?
And what makes Locke a man of faith, in this context, is not that he believes in things unseen, but that he believes in the things he has seen, right? He believes that he really was pulled into a hole by a column of black smoke, and that was real,
right?
And that meant something.
And it wasn't.
He doesn't have an explanation for it, but it was real, yeah. And as we know now, and I think he comes to feel the same way about the button. Like, it's not like it's a figment of his imagination. It's something very, very tangible. But he just doesn't. Yeah. He just can't explain it, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Whereas Jack can see the button, but if it doesn't have an explanation, and the Dharma orientation videos are not sufficient explanation. Right?
To be fair, they're not.
No, absolutely not.
I was just going to say, and Jack, he is given some evidence this episode that not only does he see the button in the computer, but he walks by that, big metal...
and he sees his key go.
Yeah, his key goes. And that was... And Desmond says that, I forget if it's in the next couple episodes or at the end of the season, but he says, I walk by that wall and my fillings hurt.
Yeah.
It's like they've got it right in front of him.
Right. I mean, we don't know what it is, right? We know it's a magnet, but
it's a really big
something
magnet.
Is there. Yeah. Which will be a good thing to keep in mind. I don't remember that being so obvious.
Yeah.
The first time I watched, maybe now, obviously in hindsight, and this is maybe a nice point of transition, we know that there is all of this metaphysical stuff going on this island, and there's this cosmic conflict between these two brothers who represent good and evil or whatever. But I am surprised by how tangible and scientific this all feels. Still at this point. I know we have the column of black smoke. I know we have some weird, the polar bear and some weird stuff. But the hatch...
I guess I'm not sold on science quite yet, but certainly it's tangible.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. It's there, it's real, it's physical. Mm-hmm. There's electromagnetism, there are polar bears on the island, somebody built a geodesic dome.
Right.
There were people there in the 70s who were scientists.
Right.
At least according to the video. Yeah.
We'll get there.
Oh gosh, do you have any other hindsights? Because I got so much hindsight, I don't even know what to do with it.
Oh, go for it then.
Oh gosh.
I'll help you.
I was just thinking, when you brought up the Walt scene earlier in the jungle, that just made me so badly want to know what Walt's special powers were.
I know, and I know we've had this conversation, and dear listener, I'm sorry we have this conversation every other episode. Walt, all of the potential.
So much potential.
But then you grew up.
It's a damn shame.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I guess the hindsight that I really wanted to bring up was just and maybe this is a good transition to our interview, because we're going to be hearing from Henry Ian Cusick shortly here. He plays Desmond. He's in this episode, briefly.
As you may have known.
Yes, you may have known. I love the stadium scene.
Yeah.
And we asked him about this, so you'll hear what his thoughts on how he played that scene and why he did it that way. But there's such a wonderful sort of mystical, prophetic quality to the way he does that.
What if you did fix it? I didn't. Well, what if you did? You don't know what you're talking about, man. I don't? Why not? Because with her situation, that would be a miracle, brother. And you don't believe in miracles.
And Jack is like, what? What are you even saying? And the viewer is kind of like that too, right? Like, what is this guy implying? What does he know?
Right. What does he know?
What?
That's definitely the question.
Yeah. And then the question becomes, how does he know? Because he's right.
So this is the source of my hindsight. So I was reminded so much in that scene of like season 6 Flash Sideways Desmond, where he's the sort of mystical, all-knowing character going around and trying to get them to remember their lives, and he just has that like sort of uber confidence and like, you know, omnipotence, and I felt that quality from him in this scene.
Wow.
Which, like, I'm there's no way they could have, you know, known what was coming with him, but I was struck by it, and I was Googling it to see if anyone else had talked about this, and I came across a Reddit post in the r/fan theories subreddit from 2 years ago.
Oh gosh.
Posted by someone named Commissioner Valchek, which is a character on The Wire, which is one of my other favorite shows.
Commissioner, if you're listening, hello.
Commissioner Stan Valchek. No, and the theory here is basically that maybe this was time-jumping Desmond in this moment. Which I love.
Whoa.
Right? And Mr. Valchek here, Commissioner Valchek, makes the point that later in the finale of season 2 we get the other part of this flashback from Desmond, where right before he meets Jack, Penny confronts him in the parking lot,
Right.
And that he just seems like, you know, an entirely different person in that moment. He's nervous, he's upset, he's arguing with Penny, he's kind of frantic. And then, you know, like apparently, you know, in this same moment here, he's like having this, you know, totally cool, calm, collected, you know, prophet moment.
He's very much at peace when Jack encounters him.
Right. And when he sees Penny, it's like he seems like he's not at peace at all. So and that, I think, you know, lends to his argument here that you know, maybe this isn't that Desmond, maybe this is future Desmond back in this moment to guide Jack.
Whoa. Whoa.
I kind of love it.
That's incredible. And we have no conclusive answer, right? But I love it.
Commissioner Valchek, thank you very much for your contributions to the Hatch.
If you ever want to be on the show, if you ever want to share a hot take, let us know. Let's hear from Henry Ian Cusick, shall we?
So I'm here with Henry Ian Cusick, who played Desmond Hume, of course, on Lost. Ian, thanks very much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Hi, Sammy. Thank you for having me.
So let's start right at the beginning. How'd you get the role as Desmond?
I was sent. I knew nothing about the show. I hadn't seen it, and I was sent some sides from my manager. I was in Tunbridge in England at the time, and she sent me these sides, and I looked at them, and I thought, I don't know what to do with these sides, and I left them lying there for about 4 or 5 days, and she kept phoning me and saying, "Are you going to do this? Are you going to send it?" And it was back in the days where you had to film something, download it, burn it onto a CD.
Oh, gosh.
You move the CD, it would say "did not burn," and then you would have to take it to FedEx. It really was quite a chore to cut a long story. Well, so I ended up doing it with my friend Robbie, who was so not interested in filming me. He was desperate, and I looked back on my audition tape and I saw it, and it was really it wasn't very good. I mean, there was a lot of mistakes. I got the lines wrong, but there was something about it, I guess, that they liked. But the whole thing of getting it to FedEx, I couldn't find one that was open to get it there in time. And it was just, I had my 3 boys in the car. It was 11 o'clock at night, picked them up from school, and I was still on the M25. My phone said, "Where are the boys?" And I said, "They're with me." And said, "Have they eaten?" I said, "Well, I put, crisps and pizza in the back." And she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm sending off my FedEx thing for this TV show." She said, "What? You never get them." It's a waste of time.
I like the confidence there from your wife.
I know. I always tease her with that. Anyway, it was one of those things where it was a life-changing moment when I did get it. So just keep, to anyone out there who's doing the audition tapes or self-tapes or videotapes, keep sending them out, keep doing them, because one of them is bound to hit eventually.
So if you hadn't seen any Lost up until that point, what did you do anything to prepare when you got the role? Did you catch up on the show at all?
No, because I hadn't aired yet. It was at the end of season 1, and it hadn't aired in the UK, and I think some posters about it. So no, it was very obscure. You only get it was the scene where running up the stairs, and I see Jack, and I say, "You got to lift it up, brother." and it was all kind of like lift what up, lift your ankle, and, all that sort of talk. And the way I played it, I remember thinking, I don't really know what's going on. I had just played Jesus, and I was kind of coming off of that, and I was still in that kind of spiritual thinking, and I thought, I have no idea what's going on, but I'm going to play my character like an angel. He seems like an angel for some reason. And I went with that, and that seemed to do the trick.
Well, I feel like that turns out to be a pretty apt way to go about it. That line, "You've got to lift it up." You're right; it's very ambiguous. The way you played that and approached it right from the beginning there, do you think that turned out to be a pretty good way to do it? That Desmond does kind of have this, prophetic, maybe even Jesus-like role on the show?
So I did that for my audition tape, and I sort of did the same thing in performance when I was working with Jack Bender. I remember Jack Bender was saying, no, just play it straight. Don't add any edge on it. Stop smiling. He was that to me a lot. I don't know, the whole thing about getting Desmond and Lost, I remember it just had a really good fit. It was one of those shows, it's only happened in that show ever, actually, where it just felt right. I can't really put it into any other words, but it just, I remember sitting on set going, this feels right. There's something about this feels good.
Yeah. I'm curious, I guess, what you think thematically of what Desmond's role was in the show, and maybe how as an actor you approached that you have these, sort of really significance to the mythology and to the themes of the show, but you're also, of course, just trying to play a person with, personal struggles and dramas and whatnot.
At the very essence of Desmond, it's a very simple story of a man trying to get back to the woman he loves, which is great. It's very, I've got an objective, a super objective. That's fine. It's very simple. We can shape as actors a little bit. We think we can, When we got the scripts, we had to be word perfect, because everything meant something else down the line.
Sure.
But I think in performance, and I think this is very true with Michael Emerson and myself, who joined the show, the actors, the directors, certainly Carlton Cuse, I believe, saw something in me, and Carlton and Damon saw something in Michael Emerson, for them to ask us back. So I felt I did a lot of interviews and talks and spoke about things that I liked, and one of the things I talked about was Oedipus being my favorite play, about destiny, it seemed that all the things that I was talking about kind of featured eventually in Lost in one shape or form, about destiny, and, so, I don't want to say that this is, wasn't, but I just felt like with your character, you can shape it slightly, you can push it, towards where you think you'd like to go, and I think the writers certainly pick up on that. They're watching, and they're very good. I mean, I have to say the writers in Lost are phenomenal and gave me a fantastic role. So I'm internally grateful for that.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you do feel like you shaped the character in at least a little bit of a way.
I think all actors do. It's just what they bring naturally. Their natural essence, their natural whatever they have. They all, people see something in an actor, go, oh, he does that well. I actually one day I remember there was one scene when the hatch blew up. I was trying to the computer broke.
Right.
And I was doing a scene, and I remember Jack Bender asking me to do it. Okay, do it sad, do it angry, and he gave me all these different ways of doing it. And it was like probably my second episode.
Yeah, that's right.
And of course, I really wanted to stay, so I would do whatever he said. I didn't even question it. And afterwards, Terry O'Quinn came up to me and he said, "That was your audition."
I guess you passed.
I guess so.
When, before I ask that, I want to ask about some of those early scenes. I mean, the sequence right at the beginning of the second season, the make your own kind of music sequence. When you're on the treadmill and doing the smoothie, and then the explosion happens up in the hatch. I'm so curious what that was like to film, because it's such a strange and different scene and was so mind-blowing for a lot of fans. I'm curious.
I remember thinking, this is great, I don't have any lines. And, Jack was very precise with his direction and wanted it just so. It was a lot of zipping and tying shoes and guns. I remember I actually cut my hand quite badly when I slammed that door and pulled the gun out. But yeah, I was the same with you. When I saw the opening, I was like, oh my God, is that me? Did I shoot that? Because the way it was edited was just phenomenal. I thought it was very exciting with the music. You know, it's such a great sequence because there's no dialogue, you know, and it's just image and music, and Michael Giacchino does such a wonderful job. For me, that's just great storytelling, image and music, and then we get the phenomenal. I remember watching that, thinking, "Who is that?" And then realizing, "Oh my gosh, that's me!" You know, yeah, I think that's still one of my favorite scenes of Lost.
Did you have I mean, I assume you must have been aware going into Lost, even if you hadn't seen the first season, that it was this pop culture sort of phenomenon, right?
I was just getting hint of it. I spoke to my wife, and she said, "Oh my God, Ian, it's all over the UK." And when I landed in Hawaii, they said, "You're the guy down the hatch," and I was like, "Okay." I didn't really appreciate what that meant.
Okay.
Then I asked to see some of the episodes, and I understood. But even then, you know, I didn't really understand what Lost was. You know, it became such a phenomenon. And when you're in it, you're not really aware of what you're in. I was just in it. So I didn't really appreciate the size of it. I can look back on it now and see, you know, the legacy of it is, and appreciate it a bit more.
In those first couple episodes when you were down there in the hatch, did the writers, give you any information or background on who your character was or how he had gotten there, or did you just have to play what you had on the page?
I can't remember actually, but I knew I was there for 3 episodes, and that was it. And looking back on Lost, there's I keep saying this, but a lot of it was like I'd done a pincer play, and I'm blanking on the name. But anyway, I remember doing that pincer play and not really knowing what was going on, and then eventually just saying, okay, I understand that I have to make up my own reality, and that's how I approached that and many other shows since then. It's a really good acting exercise, like not knowing what's going on and just making your own truth.
Sorry, what is that? A pinter play?
Yeah, a pinter. What play? It's McCann. What's it called? Birthday Party. Okay. Yeah, it's a very it's a really good play, but you're not really sure what's going on. Until whatever the actors decide to do with it, then, but just on reading on the page, you're like, what is happening here? It's just bizarre.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. I mean, that certainly describes just about every sequence of Lost for probably every actor.
Yeah, I think having that training as an actor certainly reassured me, thinking, I know this is doable. I can do this. I don't need to know everything.
Yeah. At what point did you find out, or did they ask you to come back? After those first few episodes.
So I didn't die, which was good. I got very excited about that. I'm not dead. That means I can come back. And even in Lost, I didn't realize that if you die, you can still come back.
Yes.
But I was still alive, and there was talks possibly coming back, maybe, and then it happened. I found out in December. I was in Paris, and I found out that they made an offer. I'd come back for season 3 as a regular.
I mean, one of the, I guess, storytelling decisions that struck me so much in Lost was, when you come back for the season 2 finale for the Live Together, Die Alone episode, I just thought it was sort of daring of them to center this, big climactic, conclusion of the story with this episode about Desmond, who is this character we, had hardly met, hadn't, you appeared in obviously the first couple episodes, but you weren't one of the stars. They hadn't really gone into the backstory of someone out of the blue like that before. I guess I'm curious, what you think made that such a powerful story in that episode, to tell the story of Desmond and to do it in the way that they did, because it sort of came out of nowhere, but obviously resonated with people.
Yeah, now that you mention that, that is very brave storytelling, to have a peripheral character and make him so central for the season finale. I guess maybe they did have plans for him to come back even then, which I didn't know about. I didn't think like that. I just thought, wow, look at this script. Holy shkamoli, what a great opportunity. And it was one of those episodes. I think we shot that I think it was a 10-day shoot, but I remember when we wrapped, I slept for like a day and a half. And I was like, wow, I was tired. I was exhausted, but it was so much fun. It was right about that time. I just thought, there's something about this being here in Hawaii, which I still live in Hawaii. I'm here now. Being in Hawaii, being on that show, that just seemed so right. And I can't really find that.
Yeah, those scenes with Terry O'Quinn where you're down there debating whether to push the button or not they're so dramatic. I mean, I hope you enjoyed filming that.
I always loved working with Terry.
Yeah.
In the early days, he has such a twinkle in his eye. We didn't talk very much off camera in those days, which I brought up. I said, we don't, but he was such a delight and such a warm and giving actor. He's probably one of the most giving actors I've ever met. He always talks about this story about, when acting, it should be like a triangle, people coming together, and that's what makes it strong. If one person's too strong, it's going to collapse. One person's too weak. And then as we work later on in the seasons, we would just be chatting and they'd shout action, and then we just carry on talking in the scene. So he made it effortless. And when you work with someone like that, it just elevates your game, and he makes it seem so easy. And he's such a delightful man as well. He's lovely to work with.
Yeah, you can see the twinkle in the eye when he's on screen a lot of the time too.
Yeah.
Another question I have about Live Together, Die Alone is the introduction of Our Mutual Friend as the book that you weren't going to read until the last book you were going to read before you died. Did you have anything to do with that or with the selection of that book? Or?
No, nothing. I didn't. I haven't read it. I don't know it. I know it's by Charles Dickens. That's about it.
The other line that really stands out to me from those scenes with Locke is when you say, "You saved my life, brother, so that I could save yours." This idea in Lost, there's this fate versus free will debate going on all the time, and I'm just curious how you think Desmond plays into that, and what his role is in that this is destined, this is our fate versus we have free will conversation. Does that make sense as a question?
Yeah, no. I remember very much remember the whole science, man of faith.
Yeah.
I was brought up in a very religious sort of background, but I stopped going to church at 16. And the whole idea of faith, I remember being quite poignant for me because I remember thinking of my father, who always, we would have conversations about, do you believe? And my father basically boiled it down to, he said, he was a what-ifer, well, just in case, I'm gonna go along and just in case, because you just don't know. And I was like, how can you do that? I just couldn't do that. So I would channel my father a lot in Desmond, I think. The what if, pressing that button, because that was faith for me. And I thought it was a brilliant way of doing it, Do you keep on doing it? Well, you keep on, just what if, I mean, it's ludicrous that here in the middle of nowhere, that by pressing this button, I'm saving the world.
Completely ludicrous.
That is the story of faith. Do you keep going to church? Do you keep believing? Do you keep going, saying your novenas, your rosaries? What if?
Yeah.
So I channeled that. And I thought, yeah, I totally buy it. I will do it. Yeah. Huh. I probably haven't answered your question there, but
no, I mean that's perhaps a more interesting answer than the question I was asking. I mean, and it leads to that amazing moment where you're down with Locke, and you've decided not to push the button, and then you realize, oh my God, I think I crashed your plane. Yeah. That's just it's a mind blowing thing, and it's. But do you think it's true? Do you think he crashed their plane? Was that actually what happened?
Yes, I believe that. What I loved about that scene was when I work, I'm on set a lot, and I'm always watching. I actually like being on set. I'd rather be on set than in my trailer. And the way that scene was shot, where the camera comes round and then it zooms into my face, so I was able to, and I could see that. So I thought I think I crashed your plane. That was going to be a big, because it was on the page, it was exclamation mark, I think. But the freedom to be able to just whisper it, I think I crashed your plane. I think I crashed it. I remember just that for me. I remember that. I remember Jack Bender doing a great job in that episode, and Paul Edwards as the cameraman.
So I'm not going to lie. When I listened back to this interview, I laughed a bit when he said the last role he had played was Jesus.
It's too perfect.
But it makes a lot of sense. Like you said, in that stadium scene, he does have a bit of an angelic vibe. I mean, it's, for lack of a better word, a vibe. He's very much at peace. He's very zen. He has that kind of otherworldly smile that apparently Jack Bender didn't want him to do, but he really is. And if indeed, our commissioner friend from Reddit is correct, and this is time jumping Desmond, then like that almost is like the lost version of an angel, right? It's like a person from another plane coming in to sort of intervene in reality, which is remarkable. Remarkable foresight, or maybe hindsight on the, I don't know.
Or maybe, as you said, he influenced them to take the character in that direction by the way he played him.
Yeah, remarkable.
Henry Ian Cusick is great, by the way. We should acknowledge that at some point. He's wonderful.
Yes. The other thing, I can't believe we didn't talk about the opening scene of season 2.
Oh, that's a good point.
Make your own kind of music.
It's one of the best sequences on the whole show. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's such a joy to watch. And I remember seeing this for the first time, and you don't feel confused, because it's very pleasant, right? The music is playing, everything is normal, but it progressively gets a little bit weirder.
Right.
Like, you see Desmond doing super normal stuff, and then you start to see, like, oh, why is he loading up a syringe? Oh,
and then you start
to
realize, wait, I don't know what's going on.
This is not normal. Yeah, and then you hear, and then shortly thereafter, it's revealed that he's at the bottom of the hatch. But you don't know who he is or anything. But such a cool scene.
Yeah, and the choice of music. I mean, the whole make your own kind of music. Thematically, it's brilliant. It's crazy. And by the way, the camera work on that shot where they go from mirror to mirror and then zoom up the hatch. Oh, yeah. That is, I have no idea technically how that works, but it's so impressive.
Right. Well, and we unfortunately can't play this today, but you have a pretty detailed conversation with editor Mark Goldman about this scene, right?
Yeah, so we'll hear from him in a couple episodes. We got a lot of good interviews to get through. But yeah, I talked to Mark, and we talked all about the splicing and dicing together of that sequence with Desmond down in the hatch. He said that there was like half an hour of material or something that he was sent on first cut, and it was some huge amount, and he has to get this down to like 2 minutes. But it's just like note for note perfect.
Yeah, literally in accordance with the music.
Yeah. Did you notice? Tell me if I'm crazy. I asked Mark Goldman about this, and he didn't really think it did this, but did it seem to you like the music just gets a little bit darker right when he takes the syringe and starts to inject himself? Did you notice that?
I didn't notice that.
Okay. Viewers, if you notice that, come tell us. We're on Twitter at The Hatch Podcast. We are facebook.com/The Hatch Podcast.
We also have a phone number. You can call us if you ever feel like chatting. We don't pick up, but we will listen to your voicemail.
And play it on the show,
that number
perhaps.
is yes, and play it on the show. That number is 9546 Dharma. It's an American number, so +1 9546 Dharma.
You can also send us a voice message on Facebook if you're not able to call the number. We're really looking forward to doing season 2 of Lost.
Guys, we have so much good stuff. We have so much good stuff in store.
And
we are so excited.
And more important than the good stuff we have in store, this season is so good.
Oh my gosh, this season is so good.
We have 24 episodes until they don't push the button, and a lot happens between now and then.
Oh my gosh, but we have... Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't need to geek out. Like, the listeners know what's coming. Ben Linus / Henry Gale.
Yep.
The Other 48 Days. Ana Lucia and Mr. Echo.
Michael's going to shoot some people. I'm sorry.
Oh, hey. We don't have to talk about that.
Eventually, unfortunately, we're going to have to talk about that.
Anyway. Everyone, we are so delighted to have you here watching Season 2 with us. Please come along for the ride.
Namaste.